Well, hello, vendors. It's Tim with Fat Cat Vending again. So I want to revisit a topic that we've talked about before, and that is vending routes. But more specifically, about a question that I've received twice about the security about purchasing a vending machine and purchasing a vending machine route. How do I make myself feel secure about purchasing this route from this individual that I don't know? So that is something I would like to discuss a little bit further. So unfortunately, there's no such thing as a DMV for vending machines, as far as I know. It would be nice that your vending machine serial number and model were tracked along a certain pathway where it could be identified in a list somewhere where it shows handoff of ownership, but it doesn't necessarily work that way. This is a tangible piece of property that doesn't need to be registered in any way. So for the most part, the easiest way, we'll talk about the vending machine first. If you want to secure the confidence of making sure that you're purchasing a vending machine, make sure that the contract is as detailed as possible. It's just as simple as that. Having a contract with not only the seller's name, EIN, their contact information, as much as you can gather from them, along with yours and signatures, and even photo ID would help, is enough to identify a solid contract. There is something that is called the statute of frauds in the United States. It's a thing where if something is purchased that is worth more than $500, it has to be in writing. So that's one thing to think about. But again, we're talking about security here, so I recommend having everything in writing. My bill of sales for vending machines have been really small sometimes, but I make sure I put every little detail that I can, especially about the buyer. Sometimes the buyers don't even have a business set up yet, and I'm selling them a machine, but I gather as much information, including a photo ID. That would help out a lot. Furthermore, as you negotiate the terms and you're placing the numbers on the contract itself, it would be helpful for you to go to the Secretary of State to determine if the seller is really a legitimate business. You can look up all kinds of information about a seller, but the Secretary of State is a good place to start. If they're large enough, Better Business Bureau, even if they pay dues or whatnot to something like that. But you can find out if you want to make sure that the property is not stolen. But just because you bought, let's say, hypothetically, a stolen vending machine doesn't necessarily make you an accessory to a crime. It's just you didn't know that you're buying a vending machine that was stolen from somebody else. How could you have known? But I think that may have been one concern from one individual. But I don't think I've ever run into a situation where somebody has purchased a vending machine that was stolen. And I don't think that's really on a lot of people's minds. I mean, who steals vending machines and sells them? I guess it could happen. But it would take a lot of work to track that sucker down. Next thing is when we talk about routes. So how do we make sure that when we drop the cash, we can walk in and we've got our machine secure, that the seller doesn't come back and grab the machine and take off? Well, that's where the contract comes into play. And this can get a little bit more complicated. The contract in this situation would have to be a little bit more, well, obviously more detailed. It would have to describe not only the vending machine itself, but the route and the contract with the client in the same context. It would have to describe exactly what the current contract is with the client. The client may have to be involved in signing the contract as well to verify if that makes you feel better, and probably should. Especially if they have a good relationship. Most of my clients I've got a close relationship with. I don't have a vending machine placed in a location where I don't speak to the client at least once a month. So they know me very well, and it should be the same, at least possibly, for the seller too. So getting in touch with the client and talking to them about what the current contract is that they have, and letting them know and make sure that they are aware that a change of hands is occurring, that the machine is being sold off, but you are taking over the route, can be helpful. But the devil is in the details, as much as you can provide. And the last thing is that once you have the machine, you've dropped off the cash, the seller's gone, you've got your contract, it's signed by both parties, You bring in a notary if you want to. You exchange photo IDs, photocopied. You even have the client involved. Whatever you can do to make yourself feel secure. You have to understand the seller wants to get rid of something. If they're sincerely wanting to sell this item and they found a buyer, they'll do whatever they can to provide you with what they need. I mean, people who refinance their homes have to supply their photo ID to the bank, and that's kind of an annoyance when you're with the bank for so many years and they already know who you are. They simply want that information. But it shouldn't be that much difficult for them to jump through a couple hoops just to make you feel safe and secure. But the last thing to keep in mind is that you can always change the locks. So if somebody who comes out and tries to grab the vending machine, if it's the seller, they're not going to be able to get back in it, of course, unless they drill. But then we go through this whole thing all over again. But you can't sit there and just deadbolt your vending machine to a wall or door or the ground. Just change the locks. And that's probably the best way to do that. That way they don't have access to that. And a lot of vending machines have two doors. They have the outside door, then they have the inside door that leads to the cash box. So you've got two locks you can change. You just need to buy the parts, and it takes you 5 minutes just to take care of that. But I have to admit that I am fairly surprised that it's not a common question, but it has been asked, like I said, a couple times to me, which it does identify that these people know that there is no registry, there is no database for vending machines to track where they go. So it could be easy for the seller to come back and take their machine, sure. But it is a lot of work and a lot of money. And it is kind of ridiculous to do something like that. But if you get more people involved, you get a lot of details on the contract, it should secure the safety of the machine not being stolen. I mean, and of course, most importantly, I forgot to mention, general liability insurance, which includes theft. So make sure you get insurance on that machine once you purchase the machine, and you're good to go. So I mean, we've listed it all down here. We've got photo IDs, we have signatures, we have the client who's involved. You have the details of the vending machine and the contract, the make and model number, general liability, changing of locks, all this stuff should help you make you feel more secure about it. I've been doing this long enough where I've done change of hands on routes and sold vending machines with no issue. It's really not a big deal. And in fact, in the end, the goal is to make friends. You realize that, oh, you're a vendor too, and you're in the same area. That's fantastic. Let's exchange our information. And it kind of leads you off in a better direction down the road, helping each other out as small vendors as we are. And it should make you feel secure. So that's as much as I think I can provide for security in regards to this situation. But the general liability for the insurance, that's what it's there for as well. All right. Have a great day.